he was David's son. He was the one picked. He was the one picked to build this thing. And ain't it funny that people are God picks them out to be on a particular job or something, and blesses them, and they're doing so good. And then all of a sudden they decide the grass is greener over here, but we all know it's not, right? Well, if you get where they got a fenced-in area, and say you got cows, and they're over here eating, they will stick their neck through the electric fence to try to eat something on the other side when it ain't no better than where they're at. And anyway, yeah. This lesson is about Solomon's, pronounce that for me. That's what I was going to say, apostasy. The word apostasy, say it again. Yeah. In the case of Solomon, it means his abandonment, he abandoned of his loyalty to God of Israel. So, he was there, he was right in he was where he should be, but he abandoned. And if you leave, look out. Having seen in these lessons Solomon's youthful commitment to obtaining wisdom from God and his devotion to serving God, one would hardly think that in the mature years of his life he would abandon the God of Israel to serve numerous false gods with all the evil and cruel deeds required by those gods. Wouldn't you think so? If he got all this wisdom and stuff when he was young, you would think that as he matured and got older, he'd have enough sense to stay right there, right? Yeah. It didn't work out that way, though, did it? So we're going to get into this here in a few minutes, and we're going to find out you can have riches, you can have everything. He had everything. He was the king. It was all his. Yeah. Why don't you move over here, Mike, that way I'll see you. Get over here in the middle somewhere. That's what we just said. Yeah, we didn't say the riches would bring you to him. He had everything. The king did. Well, the normality was that back then he was the king, so the king had anything he wanted, and that would include the riches and all that. And but now he couldn't just enjoy everything he wanted. He just couldn't. Okay, Solomon's weakness. Now here we go. That brought his downfall has been the downfall of many men. Does anybody know what that is? Lust for sinful women. And you say, what are you talking about? Well, everybody knows that's the truth, right? It's true. And it works opposite way too, for women too. Same thing. Solomon was led willfully into idolatry to please his many wives and concubines. So they led him in the wrong, like you get to the forks in the road. Solomon's at the fork, and he knows he needs to go right, but all them women saying, let's go this way. And he couldn't stay away, could he? The account of King Solomon's apostasy is told in only one place in the Old Testament. It's in 1 Kings chapter 11, and that's where we're going to be reading here in a minute. 1 Kings chapter 11. While the history of Solomon's reign as the third king of this ancient united kingdom of Israel is also told in 2 Chronicles chapters 1 through 9. There's no mention of his apostasy there, but the books of 1st and 2nd Kings are attributed to the prophet Jeremiah. And he was led by the Holy Ghost to tell of Solomon's apostasy as the beginning of the tragic events that would eventually lead to the destruction of the earthly kingdom of David the city of Jerusalem and Solomon's temple by the army of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. So, looks like he went right, it all went down, didn't it? The earthly kingdom of David, the city of Jerusalem, and the temple. Everything got gone. Okay. Let's get over here. Let's see. Megan, you got a microphone? Okay. You read the 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 through 8. Yeah.
But the king Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord as did David his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods.
Well, the Bible tells us that we reap what we sow. And that would mean the lowest man here, or it would mean the king. Everybody's going to reap what they sow, right? Early in his reign, King Solomon was known, he was known for his devotion to God, his God-given wisdom. See, people found out he had that wisdom, and they'd listen to him. And for building a temple for the Lord in Jerusalem. So he had a lot of good things going on there. So you'd have to wonder, what would make a man leave? Have you ever seen somebody that you knew had been walking in this way for years, living good, doing the right thing, then all of a sudden they go off the rails? And you say, how did that happen? It can happen. Just because they're doing right now, I don't mean they'll be doing right tomorrow. That can change in a heartbeat if the devil can get them swiveled off. And that's his job, to keep, if he can get any of us off the beaten path. He brought the kingdom of Israel to the most eminent position it ever attained in the ancient world. But King Solomon loved many strange Israelite women. And it said, the Bible said strange women. And but now I guess that's what he liked. I guess that's what it said. And this became the cause of his spiritual and moral failure, his defection from the God of Israel, and his idolatry. So that was his downfall. I mean, our downfall can come in different ways. This is a real prevalent way today in our society. I don't know, I ain't seen nothing on the divorce rate today. I'd say it's way over 50%, maybe more. I guess it's upper high, and and a lot of people don't even get married, and people look at these things, and what used to be bad in our eyes, it's okay now, and. And then once we start tolerating these things, okay, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about that. And then we ain't worried about nothing, and that's not a good thing. King Solomon disobeyed God's command that Israelites were not to marry non-Israelites. See, that was God commanded. They couldn't do that. They couldn't marry the non-Israelites who worshiped false gods. Solomon also disobeyed God's command that the kings of Israel were not to multiply to themselves wives. Non-Israelite women who converted to the faith in the God of Israel could be married to Israelite men. Rahab and Ruth being two examples of this. Remember Rahab, don't you? She was the one that was in the city, and she's the only one that her and her family survived when they come in killing everybody, and because of them being good they had hid the spies that they'd sent. You get your hand up, Mike? Okay. Well, I don't know if I know what you're saying. I'm not getting what you're saying. Yeah. No, this says that non-Israelite women who converted to faith in the God of Israel could be married if they got converted. Well, yeah, this is Old Testament. Rahab and Ruth being two examples of this. However, Solomon had 700 wives, 300 concubines, and many of them were non-Israelite women who worshiped false gods. They don't say how many, but it said many, so that means there'd be a lot. And they worshiped false gods. See, if he had a real household that was like it should be, he shouldn't have nobody in there like that with the false gods. False gods out. If that's what they're doing, they need to not be there. Regarding marriages to idolatrous women, God had warned the Israelites, they will turn away your hearts after their gods. See, God warned them. In verse 2, said they will turn away your hearts after their gods. They'll get you going off and doing the wrong thing. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. So, they were told, hey, leave the strange women alone. Leave those alone that's worshiping those idol gods. Solomon's defection from God, his apostasy, occurred when he was old. But it says that, but now he wasn't but about 57 or something when he died. I don't consider that old. It ain't even old now. Back then, I wouldn't have called it that old. It's generally accepted he died before he's 60, okay? It seemed like his apostasy occurred in his late 40s or 50s. See, he started being king when he was young, real young. So he'd been, once he got to the 50s, he'd been a king for about 30 years, something like that. To please his idolatrous wives, he must have had a bunch of them. To gain from them their sexual gratification, Solomon immersed himself in their idolatrous practices. So he jumped right in there and started doing whatever they did about worshiping the idol gods. That's what and he knew that was wrong. He was doing something he knew was wrong. And do Christian people do things they know what's wrong? Sure they do. In fact, practically everything they do is wrong. They know what's wrong. Would you agree with that? I think so. I mean, it's wrong, but it won't hurt nothing. Well, one little hurt nothing will lead to two little hurt nothings. Next thing you know, you hurt all over. And then you don't know you don't know where to go. This included not only the worship of false gods, but also his participation in the sexual immorality required by their false religion. So that was right up his alley. That was right up his alley. Solomon, he built shrines to the false gods. So I guess he lost his wisdom when he started doing this, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah, he did. I mean, he started building shrines to the false gods. He'd done built the tabernacle for God, and he was really, and he sacrificed to those gods. Infants born from his immoral sexual relations, all these evil practices were strictly forbidden by the law of Moses and punishable by death. Woo. So those evil practices were bad. They were strictly forbidden by the law of Moses and punishable by death. Okay, let's see. Diane's next. Okay, read verse 9 through 13.
And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherever the Lord said unto Solomon, Forasmuch as this is done to thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and I will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days I will not do it for David's thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David's my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen.
And if God said it, it's going to happen. And if whatever he said, that's going to be the thing that goes on. The language in verse 9 is very strong. The Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared to him twice. See, God had went to him 2 times. And you think, how could somebody like that turn away from God? I mean, the sin of the world will blind you. Like you get your blinders on, you're looking straight ahead. The sin of the world will blind you, and you'll be wandering around. You'll go down the wrong path. That sin will drag you down the wrong road. God's anger towards Solomon was intensified by the fact that on 2 occasions he had appeared to Solomon in dreams and had spoken to him. So it made God mad because he went to him in dreams twice and talked to him and spoke to him in a dream. And Solomon had also witnessed miraculous manifestations of God's presence and work. God had drawn Solomon into a uniquely close relationship with himself, which made his defection from God more offensive. So God, he had done so many things for Solomon. It was like, I don't know, it wouldn't be personal with God, but I think I'd look at it like that. I've done all this for you, and what are you doing? You're putting up these shrines, these false gods, and you know better than that. He did know better, but he couldn't help himself. And if you talk to some people, you say, why'd you do that? Well, I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. They'd say something like that. People will tell you something like that. They can help themselves, but then they can't. And that's a double-edged sword, I think. Jesus said the principle underlying divine judgment is to whom much is given shall much be required. See, it is. I mean, the more that God gives you, that's the more required of you, of what you have to do. God's anger towards Solomon was in a direct proportion to how much God had given him. So when you look at all that God had given him, then you can imagine the anger that was in it. God was justifiably angry with Solomon, but he was also merciful to him. So he really was. He was, for what all he done, he got done easy. God dealt with him sort of easy. He might not have thought that, but it was. God said the penalty for Solomon's sin would be the loss of his kingdom, and that probably was a good thing. All of a sudden, he ain't got everything. He can see what he really needs to do. However, this will not happen during his lifetime, but in the reign of his son. So they weren't going to take it right then. It's going to take it after he died and his son took over. And I think that's merciful, don't you? Yeah. I mean, now, if he's really hardline, he'd come in and took it away right then. But that ain't the way. Hey, that's the way God did it. And yeah, we can't question that. And the loss of the kingdom will not be total. You know, they had all the tribes. 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel would be lost from the kingdom. Well, that's most of them, but not all of them. But the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin and the Levites and priests would be kept in David's kingdom. So he was getting separated out, and he had a small portion of what he used to reign. He had all them tribes before, and now he's going to be knocked down to maybe one. Mercy was extended to Solomon in large part, as the Lord said, for David, my servant's sake. So it's for his servant David. See, it's not exactly for him. It's in his family, like, I guess. It seems likely this message from the Lord was delivered to Solomon by the prophet Ahijah. Ahijah, that sounds right. You did? Okay, I didn't look it up. Ahijah. That sounds right, though, Wilma. Most people today are too intellectually sophisticated to worship false gods the way Solomon did. Well, they would be, but that don't mean some of them couldn't be pulled away. I mean, I don't care how intellectual you are. If you see the people that get in these cults, and then you hear their background, big part of them are college-educated people, and they've went down that wrong road. And and they should be smart enough to know better than to fall for these false teachers, and they jump right in there and take it. But idolatry is still as prevalent today as it was in Solomon's time. So that's the truth. It's going on today just like it did back then. The chief form of idolatry is and always has been self-worship. Ooh. Self-worship. Well, a lot of people, it's all about me, right? Okay, that's bad that happened to you, but what about me? What are they going to do for me? That's the truth. If we thought more about what we can do for somebody, we'd see a lot more things done, wouldn't we? Yeah. Helping somebody out. Got to take time to do that. If you see someone that needs a little help, try to help them if you can. When I hit the ground over here and was laying in the mud, if James Short hadn't drove by, and how he seen me from that road, he's 80, how old are you, 85? He's 85. And he was driving down the road and seen me laying up here in their yard. I could have laid there, because people just drive right by. He's probably checking his car out in the mud, laying in the mud. But if he hadn't come by, see, the Lord was all in that. He's seen me. Well, he gets over where I'm at. I can't get up. He can't get me up. So we're both sitting there. What are we going to do? then it wasn't just a couple of minutes. Melvin come by with his brother who lives up the road here. They come by, stop, and said, what's going on? And them two are stout fellows. They helped me get up. And all that was sent for me. I didn't know Melvin's brother even lived up here. And that's the first time I'd seen Melvin on this road. And but see, God can send somebody to you when you need it the most. We needed it then now. That was the time it was needed. And so you can say, well, what's the big deal? Well, maybe if you're laying in the mud and you can't get up, you might need help too. And the thing of it is, God can send somebody to you right then. We didn't have to wait. No, we didn't have to wait 5 minutes. I don't guess. I don't know. I don't remember. Wasn't much. James is just a director. But if he hadn't come along, I don't know if anybody else has stopped or not. The worship of self and the pursuit of sexual pleasure brought Solomon to the worship of false gods. That's what brought him down. All these women that, well, you say how many? I don't know. He had 700 wives, 300 concubines, and how many of them was on the wrong side of where they should be, worshiping false gods? That's who and he liked that. It wasn't like he was drug into something. Well, he liked what he's been drug into. You know, a lot of times when people say, well, they made me do it. Well, you probably wanted to do it or you wouldn't have done it, right? Today, the worship of self brings people to sin and the pursuit of these sensual pleasures, money, status, power, and acclaim. Self-worship always brings people to worship and serve the creature more than the Creator. Now, think about that. I like that. Yeah. Self-worship always brings people to worship and serve the creature more than the Creator. We'd be the creature, I guess. And you know, we worshiping ourselves. Me, me, me. We need to get that out of our vocabulary, I think, and get something else in there. The only deliverance from self-worship is to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, our soul, our mind, and strength. We can do this only by the saving grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. And there's the answer. When people have problems and addictions and all these kind of things, here's their answer right here. That's just exactly what the God with all, to love the Lord our God with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind, all our strength. I didn't leave much out, did it? And we can do this only by the saving grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, let's see. Sure, you're next. Okay, verse 14. Yep.
And the Lord stirred up a adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was the king's seed in Edom.
Oh, that's verse 14. Okay. God's immediate corrective punishment of Solomon was the action of God's passive wrath. See, it wasn't what would you call the aggressive? It wasn't aggressive because he was easy on him. He said, we're going to take your kingdom, but not now. It'll be after you die. And then you had 12 tribes you're over, which is a lot. We're going to take 10 of them away. So left a small amount to be ruled. And that was being easy on him. That is, God removed some of his protection from Solomon. He allowed enemies to rise up against him. From this time onward, the peace of God that had given to Solomon's kingdom departed. So that wouldn't have been a good place to be living, would it? The remainder of his reign was characterized by threats from adversaries. First among these was an Edomite named Hadad. Okay, that's what Sherry just read there. A member of the royal family of Edom. So he was a member of the royal family, belonging to a dynasty of kings descended from Esau, the brother of Jacob, the twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah. Y'all remember that story of the Okay. Hadad's grievance against Solomon and Israel dated back to David's reign as king, so he was holding a grudge from way back. As back to David's reign as king, Israel had conducted 6 months of war against Edom, and Joab, the captain of Israel's army, attempted to kill every male in Edom. Now, that there's an aggressive move. Let's kill every male, all of them. And it'd be hard. Well, that'd be a job, wouldn't it? And that would all males. That would include babies too, wouldn't it? If it's a male, I guess that'd be one way to stomp out the competition, because they ain't going to grow. There ain't no males there, right? They just go with what they got left. However, Hadad, who was still a child, in company with the others of the Edomite royal household, he escaped into Egypt. So he remembered what happened. The Pharaoh of Egypt showed them the hospitality due to royalty, because he was in the royal family. And there Hadad grew to manhood with Pharaoh's favor, and he married Pharaoh's daughter. So he done pretty good. He stayed there in the court of Pharaoh, and then he got to marry his daughter. That'd be a big deal back then. Eventually, Hadad returned to Edom, and there he became an active enemy of Solomon and Israel. So when he come back, he was active. He was an active terrorist. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Darlene, read who? I thought you just read, didn't I? Well, you could read the next one if you wanted to. You done passed the mic. Well, I was thinking that you'd read. Okay, you read 23 verses 23 through 25.
And God stirred him up another adversary, Rezin the son of Eliadad, which fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah, and he gathered men unto him and became captain over a band when David slew him of Zobah. And they went to Damascus and dwelt therein and reigned in Damascus.
Okay. Rezin, a man who hated Israel. Just like today, if people go against Israel, they attack them and try to defeat them. Israel is a very small country, but you don't defeat them. And if you got any sense, you won't attack them. Another adversary God used to correct Solomon of his idolatry was a man named Rezin. During David's reign, Israel conquered Syria and killed the king, Zobab, who reigned in Damascus. In the midst of this confusion of war, Rezin, who had been an enemy of Zobab, he gathered a following, took over Damascus after the death of Zobab. So Rezin reigned in Damascus. He was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, and he hated Israel, and he reigned over Syria. So he really hated them. God holds nations as well as individuals accountable to himself. God's judgment against King Solomon was not only against him, but it was also against the people he ruled. So it just wasn't something God went to King Solomon about. All of his people, they had to feel the pain too. Whatever he did to him happened to them. It was also against the people he ruled, many of whom followed his evil example of idolatry. So when they saw the king doing it, they said, "Well, okay, the top man's doing it. I guess I can do it too." So that's just the way it went. Along with Solomon, the people of Israel suffered from the negative consequences of the political and military unrest caused by Hadad and Rezin. We need to heed the fact that God holds wrongdoing leaders and the people who support and participate in their wrongdoing accountable for sinning. So we don't want to be led down the wrong path. We don't want to do that. We want to say, well, say the leader's doing wrong. Okay, if they are, I don't mean we got to, right? If they go wrong, we can still go right. If they do wrong, we can still do right. You say, but the leader, well, maybe the leader's doing like Solomon did. God acts in judgment against leaders and nations who forget God. We don't want to be a nation that forgets God. No. But things ain't doing good, but that don't mean they got to stay their way. Yeah, I never figured out how a woman and her son it was a woman and her son went and got a prayer took out of schools. That was it. Where was all the Christian people at?
At that time, we were all told that we're not supposed to get involved in politics. You just pray about it. You don't get involved.
Well, I don't consider that a politician thing.
I don't either. I've often wondered that. Why did people not stand up? But everybody, it's like everybody just.
All the Christian people, I mean, apparently, I don't know what year they done that. I must have not been.
We were teenagers.
Yeah, we was teenagers and I didn't know the difference.
We didn't have the right to open our mouth.
Yeah, but they went and got that took out of schools. I went to school right up the road here at Kingsley Elementary, and they had over the intercom thing. We did pledge allegiance to the flag every morning, and they had prayer in there, and we had this couple that come around and taught. They had the storyboards and did Bible lessons in the class. I say they couldn't do that today. They sure done it right up the road when I was at Kingsley, and yeah, probably the same thing. Yeah, Mike. Oh, you can get out and silently. You can silently pray, but they're not no out loud praying.
They allow you to go out around your flagpole.
Well, because they won't let them. You can silently pray, just like you can sit at your desk in school and you can pray silently. They don't know what you're doing. That's the kind you can do. You can't just stand up there and pray in front of the people. They won't let you. Huh? Well, I mean, anytime. I mean, even before class started, they won't let you do it. You can pray. Now you can. Well, they're not in law. They're in the schoolroom. Yeah, that's a lawyer. We'll just let that move on. Yeah, we'll move right on there. Okay. Let's see who's next here. When I went to school, which was a long time ago, when those people come around, if you memorize verses, you could get a New Testament, which I got. Then you could get a Bible, which I got. Then get to the top of that, you got a week at the Bancroft Bible Camp up here. I got to go do that, and that was really fun. And every night they had the I don't know what they called it, but they got us all in like a little tabernacle thing, and they had a class like a deal like that, and I liked that. And then we did stuff through the day too. But yeah, I got to do that. But that was right there from school when you could do that kind of stuff. And Yeah, they do. Okay, let's see here. Well, some of these people ain't ever been around, ain't been in church. I was one of them. I would have known who Jesus was, I guess, but yeah, I wasn't brought up in church. So when I got saved, I didn't know what you're supposed to do. Yeah, I just had to go. I just had enough sense to know I just need to sit there and listen and learn. And it takes a long time to learn. We're still learning. We don't know it all. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Who's next? Darling, you read already? Okay, Wilma. You've got the mic. Then you can give it to Mike after you get done. Read 26 through 32.
And Jeroboam the son of Nebat, the Ephrathite of Zeradah, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor, and Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over the charge of the house of Joseph. How far did you say, Reed?
32.
And it came to pass that at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had him clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces, and said to Jeroboam, take the 10 pieces of this, for thus saith the Lord God, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give thee 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel.
Okay. A third man God used to punish King Solomon for his idolatry was Jeroboam. He had been one of Solomon's royal officials till he lifted up his hand against the king. Not a good thing to be doing back then, to go against the king, right? Yeah. Jeroboam was young, a mighty man of valor, and industrious, who Solomon chose to supervise a labor force for Jerusalem reconstruction project, building terraces and repairing gaps in the city wall. Terraces was a big deal back then. They didn't have heat pumps and air conditioning. And when it got hot, they'd get on the terrace or get up on the roof. And a lot of them would spend the night up on it and sleep up on top of their house. The Jeroboam passage answers the question, what brought about Jeroboam's revolt against King Solomon? A prophet named Ahijah from the village of Shiloh in Jeroboam's home, tribal territory of Ephraim. He approached him one day outside Jerusalem. He spoke to Jeroboam a message from the Lord with both a symbolic, physical gesture and words. Ahijah took off his outer robe, a new garment, tore it in 12 pieces, and he gave 10 of the pieces to Jeroboam. Boy, now that was definitely doing a show and tell, wasn't it? Took out a new robe off and tore it up into 12 pieces, and he gave him 10. He gave 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel to Jeroboam, so he got that. And Ahab informed Jeroboam this would happen because both Solomon and the people of Israel were immersed in idolatry. They wasn't just fooling around, they were immersed in it. And they were right in the middle of it. However, due to God's regard for King David's faithfulness, the kingdom will not be taken from Solomon in his lifetime. And that's what God said, but would be taken from his son. So that's where the merciful came in. He didn't take it from him right then, so he never knew it got took away, really. It got took away after he was gone. Then Jeroboam would reign as king over Israel, the northern kingdom of the 10 tribes of Israel. That became known as Israel. Then the southern kingdom of the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and the priests and Levites, that's the house of David, became known as Judah. All right, okay, Mike, you got your book there, or Bible, read verse 40 through 43. When King Solomon learned about the prophecy of Ahijah, it was spoken to Jeroboam. He sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. On Solomon's part, this was an act of rebellion against God. And I guess it would be, wouldn't it? That he thought he could void the prophecy and prevent God's judgment by murdering Jeroboam. What? This thing real loud now. It's something in, huh? Yeah, you can turn that off. Yeah, it was that. Okay. He thought he could void the prophecy. Let me tell you something. If God said a word or spoke a word or prophesied to us, you can't void it. Like, if you're writing a check and you mess up and you can void it, you write void on it, it's no good, and just do another one. You can't void this. You can't void God's prophecy. But any thought that God's judgments and choices can be canceled by doing evil is foolish and vain. Yeah, all right, God, I'm going to avoid God's judgment by doing something bad. That ain't going to work. King Solomon's determination to murder Jeroboam caused Jeroboam to escape into Egypt. But now it got him on the run. He was afraid to stay right there, wasn't he? Okay, he escaped into Egypt, where he remained there until the death of Solomon. He stayed till Solomon died. He didn't want to be took out. Then Jeroboam, he returned to Israel, and the word of God spoken by Ahab to Jeroboam was fulfilled. So when he got back, the prophecy was fulfilled. And he got to be over, how many tribes was it? 10. Yeah, 10 out of 12. That's almost all of them. The account of Solomon's life, as told in 1 Kings, concludes by calling attention to the acts of Solomon and all that he did in his wisdom. He did a lot of good things, and he had all that wisdom, but that was in his younger years. As he got mature and older, he went to the dark side, and he got away from doing the right thing. Tragically, all of Solomon's great works of building include especially his building of the temple and the greatness of his wisdom and the preeminence of his kingdom in the ancient world were tarnished late in his life by his lecherous living in idolatry as a consequence of Solomon's here. He didn't do something and not know it, right? What he did, he knew. And that's with us, too. What we do, we know. And so I didn't know not to do that. Well, that's possible, most likely not. We normally know what's the right thing and the wrong thing, and sometimes we choose the wrong thing. And you know, we can't start pointing fingers. The finger goes to us. As a consequence of Solomon's willful sin against God, the dynasty of David continued for another 344 years. That's a long time. Reigning over a diminished kingdom. I see the kingdom got cut down, way down. Mention is made of an account of Solomon's life in an ancient document called the Book of the Acts of Solomon. No copy of this document has been found, and we know nothing about it other than the mention of it here. Solomon was the third and last king of the ancient United Kingdom of Israel, all 12 tribes. See, that was supposed to be a dynasty. See, God's prophecy was that the kings would go on, but just because, you know, they got out of the line, Solomon decided to do other things. Then Solomon slept with his fathers, and that means when he was died, they buried him, which means he died. In Old Testament times, sleeping with one's ancestors meant a peaceful death, that a person's soul joined the souls of one's ancestors in the afterlife. In Jerusalem, Solomon was given a respectful burial of the king. Well, yeah, he would. He was the king, so they would give him whatever they'd do for a king. Assuming Solomon became king when he was about 17, he died at age 57. That would be, 40 years? That's still a long time, but back then, 57, these guys would live older than that. Yeah, he did. And we can cut our life short. Yeah, Mike? Okay, it won't cut off. Just hold it still. Whatever's going on a minute ago is making it go wild. Christians are to pray for kings and for all that are in authority, and that we may lead a quiet and peaceful life in all godliness and honesty. Ain't that what we want? Just a peaceful life. Why can't we all get along? You know, we need to try to get along with people. Notice that the practical purpose of our praying for those in authority is that we may live peacefully in all godliness and honesty. Wrongdoing civil leaders makes it difficult for the citizens. So whoever's leading can make it hard for. See, Solomon, when it came down on him, his people had to pay the price too. Therefore, we need to pray that civil leaders will have a heart for living, pleasing to God, and for the benefit of those whom they are chosen to serve. The calling to be a disciple of Jesus Christ is a divine calling to be faithful to Him once a week. No, good job, everyone. I was waiting on somebody to stop me there. The calling of a disciple of Jesus is a divine calling to be faithful to Him every day to the end of one's earthly life. You know, we don't retire from this. I run into people that I ain't seen in many years, and they knew me back when I wasn't a Christian. They always, here's what the one question I always get: are you still preaching? I said, you don't retire from that. I mean, you still, as long as you're able to go, you go, and you do. Maybe we don't jump as high. We don't run around the building no more. We just do the best we can. Like me, I'm sort of messed up here with this foot right now. It's been in this boot for over 2 months, so I can't drive a car. I can't get out of the house. I'm a prisoner over here. And, I don't know if it's raining, snowing, hot or cold, because I'm in the house. And that's my life right now, but I will be getting better. And thank God I'm alive. I'm not fussing about it. It gets aggravating sometimes. But, I'll be back. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. I will be back where I can stand up at that pulpit and preach as long as I want to. And if I have to sit down, I can do that too. And I just thank God that God's He's been good to me. And I can't tell it all. And a lot of times if stuff happens to us, we start complaining and belly aching and whining. You ever whine? Oh yeah, we whine when we're ourselves. Oh Lord, why does this happen to me? And just remember, God's been good to you. And if you're doing that, that means you're right there doing pretty good if you can do that. And remember, when you get in the way, stay on the way, and don't be distracted on your turnoffs. Lord, when you're traveling, they get all these signs on the roads, and you have to take the right turnoff to get where you're going. Or you drive by it and have to go maybe a long ways, turn around, come back, and you don't want to do that. And so we want to stay on the right road. Don't take no detours. And trust me. You say, what's he talking about? The crossroads that you will run into today. You say, well, I ain't gonna run into no crossroads. Oh, probably you will. And when you get there, it's how you act, where you go, and what you do. And you think, well, which way do I need to go? Go the right way. And we all know the right way to go. You agree with that? Yeah, I do too. Let's give Jesus a hand clap. All right, we'll take a little break here and then we'll move on. Huh?